Have you ever wondered what happens inside your body whenever you lift something, throw a ball, or even just take a step? Well, the answer lies in an incredible process happening at the microscopic level, muscle contraction. And in this video, we're going to break down how muscles contract, from the big picture down to the tiny molecular level. And without further ado, let's just hop right into this video. Okay, so let's start with the anatomy. So a skeletal muscle is made up of bundles called fascicles, right? And each of these fascicles contains many individual muscle fibers, right? And these fibers are long, cylindrical, and packed with even smaller units called myofibrils. Please stay with me. Now, inside each of these myofibrils are repeating units called sarcomeres. And sarcomeres are what drive muscle contraction. So let's talk about sarcomeres for a second. Sarcomeres are made of proteins, mainly actin and myosin. Actin is going to be the thin filament, myosin is going to be the thick filament. And how these filaments interact with one another is what powers muscle movement. So what am I talking about here? Well, the key to understanding muscle contraction is the sliding filament theory. And so what this theory states basically is that when a muscle contracts, the thin filaments, also known as actin, are going to slide past the thick filaments, also known as myosin, shortening the sarcomere, ultimately shortening the muscle. And so let's take this back. Like, how does this all start? Well, muscular contraction is going to start at the brain, right? So whenever you decide to move, your brain is going to send an electrical signal down through the spinal cord and out through a motor neuron. And this signal is going to reach the neuromuscular junction, which this is where the nerve interacts with the muscle. A quick little side note, the nerve does not touch the muscle. There's a little gap in between the nerve and the muscle called the synaptic cleft. Okay, so here, the neuron is going to release a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which acetylcholine is going to bind to the receptors on the muscle fiber surface, also known as the sarcolemma, right? And this is going to trigger an electrical impulse throughout the muscle. And once the muscle is electrically stimulated, it's going to release stored calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it's an organelle within a muscle that stores and releases calcium. So why is calcium so important? Well, calcium is essential because it binds to a regulatory protein on actin called troponin. And troponin is attached to another protein called tropomyosin. And so why is that important? The tropomyosin blocks the binding sites on actin for myosin. But when calcium binds to troponin, the tropomyosin is going to shift out of the way, exposing the sites on actin, therefore myosin can attach. Okay, so now the myosin heads are going to bind to the actin, and they're going to perform what's called a power stroke, which all that is the myosin is going to be pulling the actin inwards, and it's going to do this by using ATP. And ATP will be used again to detach the myosin head and recock it, put it back in position, and this cycle will repeat as long as calcium and ATP are present. And this repetitive action of myosin heads pulling the actin inwards is what causes the sarcomere and ultimately the muscle to shorten. Okay, so now I bet you're wondering, what happens when you stop sending a signal to the muscle? Well, what's going to happen is the acetylcholine will be broken down by an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase, right? And then the calcium is going to be pumped back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and the troponin and the tropomyosin on actin are going to return to their original positions, which after all this, the muscle will finally relax. And all of this happens within milliseconds. It's insane how quick all of this happens. And so let's just do a quick little recap of what we went over. So step one, a nerve impulse is going to reach the neuromuscular junction, right? Step two, acetylcholine triggers an electrical impulse in the muscle fiber. Very important. Step three, this impulse causes the release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Step 4, the calcium that came from the sarcoplasmic reticulum is going to bind to troponin, ultimately moving the tropomyosin off of the binding sites on actin. And step 5, the myosin will bind to actin and perform the power stroke, right? It's gonna pull the actin inwards, and it's gonna keep doing that as long as ATP and calcium are present. In step 6, once the signal stops, the calcium is reabsorbed, and the binding sites are blocked on actin, and acetylcholine is broken down by acetylcholinesterase, and the muscle will finally relax. And I think we can all agree that muscles are just incredible, extraordinary. I mean, they work tirelessly day in and day out to keep you moving and living. So the next time you take a step or you think about your heart beating, think about the millions of sarcomeres contracting in unison to beautifully orchestrate whatever our bodies need to do. And it's incredible how this process is built into every single one of us. And I hope you found this video helpful and interesting. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what topic you would like for me to cover next. And I'll see y'all next time.